Welcome to A Styled Life, the podcast for purpose-led female founders and senior leaders ready to use style as a powerful tool for confidence, impact and influence. I'm your host, Alex Standley, multi-award-winning personal stylist, speaker and sustainable fashion consultant with 2 decades of experience in the fast-paced world of fashion. Join me as we redefine success from the inside out. This podcast isn't just about clothes. It's about personal power, purposeful style, and creating a life that aligns with your values. So whether you're running a business, leading a movement, or stepping into your next chapter, you're in the right place. Each week, we'll dive into the world of personal style, sustainability, female empowerment, and living with intention through real stories, expert insights, and plenty of inspiration. As a roundup to the end of the year, I thought it would be a really beautiful process to revisit my Style Trailblazers. You're going to hear from 6 women at very different stages of their life and business, but with one shared experience. Their lives had changed, but their style hadn't quite caught up with where they were now. This isn't about trends or shopping lists, it's about identity, confidence, visibility, and what can shift when your style finally reflects who you are now. So I can't wait to share their stories with you again. What was it that perhaps was missing with your style, or what you wanted to really focus on as part of the Style Trailblazers experience?
I think for me, it was mainly understanding whether I had a style or not that sort of fitted with who I was. And I've sort of had a very, going straight from very casual, sort of in my scrubs all the time, feeling very comfortable in that. And actually, when I was doing the corporate work, I kind of settled into a slight rebellion because everyone was very dressed, everyone was very suited and booted. Yeah. And that just wasn't me. And so I started to wear stuff that was more me. And that was a slightly more casual style. Or I was very dressy and going to a ball or, a really fancy party. And all of that, and that side of things was sort of something I really loved and enjoyed. But there needed to be something in the middle. And the middle was the part that I could never really figure out. I think some of that comes from working a lot on your own, because you kind of think, well, what's the point in kind of having a middle ground? It's fine to just be in slacks all the time, but or scrubs all the time. Sorry, not slacks. But I knew that there needed to be something where I felt like I had a smart casual look, and a smart casual look that wasn't built around what I was doing, but still built around who I was. And some of the stuff that I do is quite spiritual. And so I didn't kind of it would have felt really forced if I'd suddenly sort of turned up in these very floaty things. Or tried to sort of, get into a vibe that wasn't mine. I still needed to own what mine was, but I wanted it to feel like it also fit with the space. So you really helped me understand how I could be me and still feel like I was a part of the space that I wanted to inhabit at the same time, if that makes sense.
Yeah, definitely. I love that, because I think if we ever try and dress up or dress as something, I think that's when that disconnect happens and we don't feel that true confidence, because we're dressing, like you said, to either fit into a room or to dress the way that we think we should for a certain situation or time of our lives or whatever it is. And I think that's the real beauty with the process that we went through, is that it's very much grounded in you and your personality. And of course, we consider your lifestyle and kind of what happens for you on a practical basis on a day-to-day. We talk about what kind of events you're going to and what's happening in your day-to-day life as well, because that's really important so that we can dress appropriately. But I think the biggest thing is really finding what you enjoy that still fits with whatever those particular circumstances are. And I think for you, it was brilliant that we could come up with, casual, smart casual, and then more formal. And we actually split your Pinterest boards into those 3 categories, which I think was a helpful way for you to visually see, this is how I can pull things together for different eventualities.
Yeah, 100%. And I think that the confidence piece that you spoke about is really important as well. And that, as you said that, I was like, gosh, that's massive. Because I know that whenever I was standing up and doing a talk for anyone that I was doing a talk for,
Mm.
it massively changed the way that I showed up in that room, depending on what I
Mm.
was wearing. And I noticed that I was, on one day, I would be wearing heels and be like, yes, I really, I feel great in heels today.
Yeah.
And then in another day, I'd be wearing heels and be like, no, it just doesn't, I can't move
Mm.
around as much as I want or as easily as I want. And so trainers were the right thing for that particular day. And
Yeah.
so, and that did absolutely have an effect on my confidence.
Yeah, definitely. And I think a lot of people do struggle, like you said, with that kind of in between, because quite often it's easy, day to day, whether that's school run or, working out or whatever it is, and you just end up wearing the same kind of thing on repeat. Or, like you said, getting dressed up for a special event. Those things are relatively easy, because I think dressing up is like an exciting thing to do, and it's like, putting an outfit together. And day to day, that's just, run of the mill, and it's stuff that you've got to hand in your wardrobe. Whereas I think that in between, let's call it like smart casual, is more challenging because it takes that level of intention and that level of kind of knowing yourself and knowing what makes sense, but also together with, the environment and what you're doing as well. And I think it really helps to build that personal brand around your style as well. So I know another thing that we spoke quite a bit about was building a personal brand, but not being so memorable that you would feel like, oh, I can't wear that again. I've worn that for an event and I can't wear it for another event. So how did you feel about that kind of process coming together in terms of building more of a personal brand around your style? And I know color was obviously something that we spoke about within that. And I love how the colors come out in your photographs as well. I think it's really bold and perhaps shows a slightly different side to you as well.
Yeah, yes, I loved introducing a bit more color. And that was one of my big fears, that actually I would have an outfit that was really obvious and beautiful, but at the same time, I'd be like, well, that's done then. Can't use that
Yeah.
again. Everyone's going to recognize it the second I walk into the next room where similar people are
Mm.
going to be there. And what you did so cleverly and carefully was to look at how color could be carried through as a theme without it needing to
Mm.
be the same outfit. So the red that I
Mm.
wore, I never wear a lot of red. I do actually have a red dress, and I wore it once, and everyone was sort of saying, "Oh, you look really great in red," and I never wore it again
Mm.
because I was like, "Well, they've seen me in red now,"
Mm.
which is a silly thing to think, really, but I couldn't kind of quite get my head around, or maybe I just didn't care enough actually about how to
Mm.
kind of pull that back in again. And then when you showed me, well, you could sort of have a red top or a red jacket, and then you can still wear it with the stuff that you've already got, and just
Mm.
bring in a little bit of color and the little hints of gold. I love wearing a gold necklace, and we brought it in on
Yeah.
the belt. I've got a little kind of gold bag as well now. So there's just little
Mm.
hints of the color that you can bring in, which is a really helpful way to look at it. And then, like with the shoes, we kind of did a fairly neutral outfit with the waistcoat being in a white color, and then the navy
Mm.
ones. But then the mustard on the shoe again just brought in a flash of color without me feeling
Mm.
like I can never wear those shoes again because I can wear them
Yeah.
in totally different outfits.
What Nova describes here is something that I see again and again with my clients. It's not that you don't have style, it's that the version of you who dressed your wardrobe no longer exists. And it's that in between phase where casual feels too casual, dressed up feels too smart or too much. It's often where women end up feeling most lost. And that's exactly where my work begins with these amazing clients. So I wanted to move next to Sonia because her experience takes this even deeper. She talks about what happens when your clothes become a kind of mask, something that keeps you safe, keeps you professional, keeps you acceptable, but slowly disconnects you from yourself.
I myself have walked that journey where I was looking outside for all the answers.
Mm.
And being a physician, a doctor, there was a certain kind of culture or persona that I felt I needed to step into. So I, particularly with my style, would be dressing, kind of safe, professional, but it really wasn't an expression of who I actually was. I'm quite fun and all, and my clothes
Yeah.
weren't really reflecting that. And I spoke about being trapped in a body. My style was making me feel a bit trapped as well. Like I had to be boxed into this particular type of individual, which then spilled out into all areas of my life. Like I was known as just the doctor in every domain. And it was
Yeah.
like, well, where's Sonia disappeared to? And it took for me to really go through so many kind of personal challenges and experiences, which were all beautifully orchestrated for this very moment that I'm sitting in front of you. And really what happened was, I think I kind of hit kind of rock bottom, as most people do. You have to break down to break through, right?
Yeah.
So that's what happened to me. And what I realized was part of that was through my job and what I was creating with people and patients. And, like I said earlier, this whole holistic approach, the inside out approach, the whole
Yeah.
not relying on one system for health. That's when I really started to discover there's so much more in health. And that actually was showing me who I really was within myself. And what I realized then was that, well, then if I'm stepping into that because that's who I truly am and what I truly believe and want to create and impact and inspire people,
Yeah.
then my external persona needs to reflect that, because people don't know my internal. That's for me. I
Yeah.
need to then showcase that out to the world. And part of that is through your clothes and the expression and the style. And so what I realized was that my wardrobe was definitely reflecting me, my mask.
Yeah.
This was to
So
cover
true.
up the feeling of, oh, I'm not good enough, I can't do this, or I'm not sure. And so the safety was the easy part to step into, because you just put a jacket on or you put your dress on and off you go,
Yeah.
and you feel like, oh, at least I'm safe. It might not be as bright color or something, but I'm safe. And actually, when I stepped into this whole new paradigm of I'm creating this differently,
Yeah.
that's when I looked at my wardrobe and said, no, this isn't me. And if I'm going to step out into the world and be the powerful person that I am in terms of inspiring and impacting people, then my wardrobe needs to reflect that. There were also other parts of me, like being a woman and,
Yeah.
what your figure looks like and your weight and all that.
Yeah.
Those aspects were there as well, don't get me wrong. But they weren't the driver. The driver was really the mask that I was wearing. And then I was like, I'm taking the mask off and I'm going to reveal my true self, my true
Love
identity.
that. It's so powerful and it's so true, because it's such a common thread that runs
Yeah.
through for most of the women that I work with. For so many women that I work with, that moment that Sonia describes in taking the mask off is the turning point. And once that shift happens internally and externally, it starts to show up more and more on the outside as well, especially when it comes to those big visibility moments. And that's what Sarah's going to talk to you about now. So, looking sort of forward, how do you think the Style Trailblazers, like style evolution that you've been through, is going to help you in showing up? Like I know you've been nominated for awards and you've got lots of kind of like moments of visibility coming up. Can you see how that's going to support you in terms of now being much clearer on your style and how you want to show up?
Yeah, it's really interesting because at the weekend I was dress shopping for this awards thing that I've been nominated for. And it was like, whereas normally I'd have gone for something black or navy blue, I've ordered a bright red dress.
Amazing.
So yeah, we'll see what that looks like when it arrives, because it's not here yet. They didn't have it in my size in the shop, so we've ordered it. But yeah, just to be a bit bolder and a bit more authentically me. And it's an interesting place because it is that, even this awards thing, part of me is like, no, I don't want to. Part of me is like, this is really visible and it doesn't necessarily feel comfortable. But it's about, as I've said, it's about us doing the work and challenging ourselves, because it's very easy to turn up. It's very easy to not turn up at all. It's very easy to turn up and wear a black dress and be nice and safe, or you turn up and wear a bright red dress.
So would you say it's given you more confidence to make those bolder choices and to feel more comfortable? Obviously, sometimes it can still feel like a little bit of a stretch, but
yeah, and it's all about the stretch, because that stretch is what I work with. That stretch, you know, we have to stretch, but we have to stretch in a way that's comfortable.
I love how Sarah describes this as the stretch, not forcing yourself into something that feels wrong, but gently expanding it into a version of you that feels more honest, more expressive, and a little bit braver than before. So we're going to move on to Colette now. And Colette's story is one that I know a lot of you will recognise in yourselves, that she knew that she was being held back, not by her ability, but by how she was showing up visually. And she reached the point where she realised that she didn't want to figure it out all on her own anymore. My style needs to evolve, or I really need to be part of this process because...
Yeah, I think I'd looked at other people's websites and I'd seen they had lovely pictures. I'm not really a comparison person, but I saw lots of other people with great pictures that really looked like them and really felt like them. And I thought, well, I've got pictures of me is with, like, you know, with a cagoule on next to a lake, you know, and that's it. That's all. I haven't really got any other pictures because I resisted having my picture taken. I thought, I think that's probably holding me back somewhere in my unconscious mind, and it's holding me back in terms of opportunities. So I'd do my speaker profile PDF and there'd be the one picture that was vaguely decent enough in there.
Yeah.
And I thought, but several things had held me back from actually going and doing something with it. And I thought, I'm not the sort of person who can do this on my own. I can do lots of things on my own.
Yeah.
But sometimes, like processing your annual accounts, you think, yeah, that's not a job for me. Or drawing up plans for your extension, you think, yeah, I'm never going to be that person who want to have the benefit of the conservatory kind of thing. So I thought I'll ask for help and get me coming across, which is quite... I tried that before, getting other people to give me some advice, and I just came away feeling a bit flat and disappointed and like, yeah, and I'll never wear that, you know. So it's like, well, what do I do? I need to kind of fit in and not fit in at the same time. And I just decided not to bother and keep going with the cagoule and lake look, you know?
I think that's the thing with style, at least for me, in terms of like my process and my ethos and my approach to it. It needs to be empowering, or it should be empowering, you know. It should be it's self-expression, so it can't be about anybody else but you, and I think sometimes that can get lost in all of the rules and the you know, the shoulds and the seasonal palettes and, you know, all of that jazz. And I think it's then a very disempowering process for some people, because you don't want to be sat in a box and you don't want to fit a certain criteria. And I think that's really what I wanted to carry into Style Trailblazers, was it's very much about you as an individual. It's not about a cookie cutter approach. And I love a challenge, so it was good.
So there I was. I thought, well, I'm going to, you know, rip the plaster off and book an appointment with somebody who knows how to solve this for me.
Yeah, and I think that's the thing, isn't it? It's like we were saying with what you do, putting your trust in an expert, and kind of collapsing time with that as well, because it can be a very overwhelming process. And especially if you don't even know where to start or where to look for, you know, it's part of my job, I guess, to push you out of your comfort zone. Because like you said, otherwise you stay where you were, and that's not necessarily where you wanted to be. So it's embracing that feeling of the wobble, and it's all part of that evolution, because you're not used to necessarily seeing yourself in a certain way, or, you know, even just the little styling tweaks you're not used to tucking in, or, you know, whatever it is. And I think that's where you were brilliant in kind of trusting me that I knew what I was talking about and that it would all translate, you know, in the best way for the photos as well. And I think that's a really important part of the kind of stylist and client relationship, is having that trust, but also for me to really understand you, so that I can, you know, build out what feels true to you in terms of that self-expression as well.
Because there was one of the ladies said, you know, I don't like this, you know, this bit of my body I'm not too fond of. And she'd got something that really suited her. And you made a slight tweak to where the waistband was and how the fabric was, you know, on her. And it completely removed, because I think, I might want to cover that up if that was me. And I mean that in the nicest possible way. But just by the tiniest of like 1 inch changes in how the garment was on the person, it was like photoshopping somebody without
Yeah.
having to use Photoshop, and I was quite amazed that you could do that. But actually, to see it magically transform somebody, so if you said, "Oh, I don't like this bit of me," I know you could instantly fix that without me having to beat myself up about dieting or why did I have that cake 3 months ago. All those unpleasant thoughts that go through your head, you don't need to worry about that because it's all handled with
Yeah.
experience.
Yeah, you're definitely in safe hands. And I think
Yeah.
that's the thing. I suppose it's the same thing as we were saying earlier about it. I want it to always be an empowering process, and we've all got body hang-ups and things that we don't like about ourselves, and that's just human nature. That's how we all are built, with that kind of negativity bias and all the social conditioning that sits in the back of our minds. But also knowing that everybody is completely different in terms of shape and size and what those individual hang-ups are going to be. So again, I suppose it's just really understanding who you are and what your shape is and how you want to show up as well is really important.
Yeah, definitely.
What I love about Colette's experience is that it shows how powerful this work can be when it feels supportive and not critical. Small styling changes can completely shift how you feel in your body without changing who you are or fixing something that was never wrong in the first place. Next, we're going to move on to Katie, and her journey highlights something else that comes up a lot, which is those evolutions and those life changes. So when you're busy raising children, building a business, or both, style often drops to the bottom of the list. And until the day that you realise you're ready to actually reconnect with it. Especially, as you said, as a parent, one of the journeys that can really impact our style and how we're showing up. But also, if you've got your own business or you're very, ambitious in your career, your personal development will be at such a faster rate. And that impacts, again, your evolution, who you are, your identity, how you want to be showing up. So I think for anyone to promise that your style is going to stay the same for your whole life, that's just completely wrong, because we do evolve, and then, we need to shift with the changes that are happening in our, just even from like a purely a practical lifestyle point of view. Like you've just said, like you've gone from probably baby, toddler, running around after tiny children to now you've got teenagers, adults, which is a completely different life stage. So I think even just from that lifestyle point of view, that can impact your wardrobe and how you're wanting to show up.
It does, because I didn't ever have the time, really, even when the kids were little, to spend much time on, I need to sort out what I'm wearing. That's probably the last thing I was thinking of.
Yeah, exactly.
Some of the dodgy things I was wearing on the school run, surprising I actually got out the car. But I think, but it's actually understanding who you are.
Absolutely.
It really does.
And can you tell us a little bit what it was like being part of Style Trailblazers and how the whole process made you feel, like what it made you reflect on and how it might help you moving forward, like in your business or just in life in general?
Yeah, to move forward, I had to look back a bit. So I've been reflecting on the past a bit recently. I'm not really that type of person. I tend to always be going ahead.
Yeah.
Because, the past is the past. And actually, if it wasn't for the past, we wouldn't be the person we are today. But going back to Style Trailblazers, then I think, again, it gave me clarity. It opened my eyes to things that I wouldn't have selected for myself before, as far as clothing, new brands that I didn't know about. Because again, out there's so much, which again can be so overwhelming.
Definitely.
So I think it was the clarity, it was the really coming across with what I'm wearing in my values, and bringing out my personality as well.
Yeah.
And colour, better use of colour, understand, because I like colour. I used to be such a just wear black, dark colours, whatever. So it's using colour that suit me, or, that represent me.
Yeah. So thinking about other women who are listening who might be stepping into more visibility, reinventing, like you've said, how they want to be seen, what would you say to that woman who knows that she's ready for a change, but she's not sure where to start, or she's not sure about how to sort of step into that next version of herself?
Well, really understand your values and what it is you're trying to represent. I think you have to understand yourself a bit.
Yeah.
And actually, to really understand yourself, you probably need to get somebody to help you do that. And give you clarity on that, or give you an ideas that, oh, actually, I never thought of that.
Yeah.
Which is what you did.
Yeah. And I think it's interesting, isn't it? Because I think often we think of style as something that's quite frivolous or like materialistic, quite surface level, but actually there's a lot of depth to the process that I take you through that makes you think, that makes you like almost have those light bulb moments where you're like, oh, actually, yeah, I'd almost, like you said, revisiting some stuff from the past that perhaps you might have forgotten about, that you really enjoy, or something that lights you up, or, you know, just something that you have maybe lost a little bit along the way, or things that perhaps you hadn't even identified that, you know, really resonate with you.
Yeah, I think there also needs to be a form of trust and letting go of control.
Yeah.
I think people are so obsessed with controlling everything, me included.
Yeah.
It's a human thing, and it's definitely a thing if it's your own business and brand, and how you look is you know, it's a big thing. So it's putting some trust and allowing somebody to do that for you. And putting trust in them rather than your old ways, actually constantly dominating the decision making.
Yeah.
So I think that is, it questions yourself as a person, thinking, oh, actually, I need to let go there.
Yeah.
And not
Yeah,
always
and
be in control.
And like you said, it can be hard to do when it's something that's so personal to you. But I think sometimes we're too close to it that we sometimes can't see the wood for the trees. Or when you're stepping into that next level or that next version of how you want to express yourself, you don't always know in your mind what that actually is going to look like. And so there can be quite a lot of fear, I think, that comes up in, you know, if I'm pushing you a little bit out of your comfort zone or getting you to try something different, the immediate kind of brain response is like, oh no, it's too different, I'm scared about that. But actually that's such a natural response because you're not used to seeing yourself in that way, and that's the whole point of the process.
Yeah, I think it needs to be, I mean, I'm a believer in, if I'm going to do something, I'll do it wholeheartedly, or I won't bother.
Yeah.
And so that, I just think it's really worth doing, because there's a visual impact, but there's also it's a psychological thing going on as well.
Yeah.
And it's great because it's a part of I can't think of the word. It's just a great process. Sorry, it's my brain.
Yeah.
Trying to think of the word.
It's like an evolution.
That's the word.
Yeah.
Evolution.
Yeah. What Katie describes so beautifully is clarity. Not just knowing what to wear, but understanding her values, her personality, and allowing her style to evolve alongside her life rather than lag behind it. Next, we're going to move on to Kelly. So Kelly's experience brings yet another layer into this conversation: menopause, confidence, and visibility. Her story is a powerful reminder that when your body and life are changing, your style often needs to change with you as well.
So I've always loved fashion. Well, not fashion, I wouldn't say. I'm not a fashion follower, but I love clothing and dressing well. And my background is in design, and I think that filters through everything. You know, my lens on life is from a creative perspective. So I see almost my clothes as an expression in the same way as my home is of my creative self. But going through the menopause, there were various, I suppose, visual symptoms that knocked my confidence. One is my skin. So I suffer from melasma, which is darker pigmentation, and then also spot breakouts, which knocked my confidence. In my 40s, it wasn't something I thought I was over that from my teens. So the whole changes brought that back. And also I gained weight and my body shape changed. And I think those things, my external appearance to the world, took a bit of a knock. So I think also just my mood a lot of the time, I was, if I was feeling anxious or down, which are the roller coaster of emotions that I've personally experienced through the menopause, and not feeling confident in, or the need or the desire to present myself, I suppose, dressing well. For what purpose, I suppose, and working from home also, there's less contact and sort of being out and about. So I think my wardrobe just, was as it was, lots of neutrals and dark colours, which is sort of my safe space, I guess.
Yeah.
And I think that's just what I was doing, just playing safe and not really paying as much attention at that time to how I was dressing. So the opportunity to have your expertise in helping me particularly increase the amount of colour in my wardrobe and combining colours and knowing how to source brands that would suit my body shape and also work together, and the sustainability aspect of everything, felt like a really good opportunity, particularly now that I've been trying to gain momentum in my retreat business. Because my confidence, my inner confidence, has been struggling with that fear of failure and putting myself out there. And obviously part of marketing a business and part of gaining trust and sharing my mission and my vision and my plans with the world, with women who I believe need that service and support, is to become visible. And I think I underestimated how powerful one's wardrobe and personal style could be in elevating that confidence. I think I really underestimated that, and so I was even more delighted when we started working together how, and it's almost quite strange to explain where that comes from, where that confidence comes from, but literally it is now much more I do feel much more confident. I mean, it doesn't look quite as bright on camera, but I went at the weekend and bought a couple of bright red lipsticks because I decided, yes, I'm going to do this. And I think that's definitely been growing over the course of the period of time we've been working together.
Yeah, definitely. I think one of the things that makes it so powerful is that initial session where we really take it back to that reconnection to who you are and what you love, because I think, as you've said, through that experience, and it doesn't necessarily have to be menopause, it can be, so many different points in our lives where we're going through a transition or we're feeling a bit lost, whatever that point is, it can create that real disconnect between who we were, who we're becoming, and we're kind of like straddling like two timelines almost, and that can feel a bit discombobulating and can make us question a lot and reduce our confidence because we're just not sure how we want to show up, if we want to show up, and like you said, visibility is, a huge part of Style Trailblazers, because it was all about each of you amplifying your mission and your impact and everything else, but style is such a powerful part of that because it really helps you to reconnect with even those little details that we discussed, as part of building your signature style, you connecting with what lights you up again. And I think all of that just really gradually helps you to start sort of coming back to life almost.
Yes. And I think that something else that we discussed on my journey was the visibility thing is a weird one for me, because I want to be present and, be showing up for my business and therefore for serving others. But I've often had an issue with not wanting to draw attention to myself, and that's something we discussed in your style round table conversations, which were also incredibly powerful. And I don't think it's a case of I've reached a certain age now where I just don't care, because I've never felt like that. I really think a switch has been flipped, and that's through working with you to say, and I mentioned this on the panel discussion the other evening, which is, okay, I'm going to do this, I can do this, and you're a brilliant example of how you can show up for your business in colour, presenting really well, but it's not over the top. And I think I was always worried that it could be seen as that, and I think that's come from historic things at school and past experiences. And I think working with you, it's almost like I've been given permission to that it's okay, that it's good, that actually it's what's needed to show up more confidently, and also, it's something I'd like for my female clients as well, because I know that women in menopause, many of them will be going through similar experiences to me, and that's why I'm very much excited about having you working with me on the retreats, because I think it's a key element to helping boost women's confidence and like you say, in that transition, help them show up more confidently, and know that it's okay to feel good in how you look. And I think there's a lot of stigma attached to, well, in certain areas, certain maybe parts of society or stages of our lives as women, that that it could be seen as shallow or vanity, and I think I've understood on this journey that it's not about any of those things. It's about what you can do to make yourself feel good, that really does have an impact on how you show up and what you can achieve in life. And I think people don't understand that connection unless you've gone through this kind of process.
What connects all of these women isn't their age, their career, or their body shape. It's that moment of realising I've changed and I'm ready for my style to reflect that. Style isn't about becoming somebody new or trying to go back to who you were before. It's about reconnecting with who you already are and giving yourself permission to show up in a new way. If something in this episode has resonated with you and you're ready to explore the next evolution of your style and visibility, book in for a free style strategy call with me. You can find the link in the show notes. Can't wait to see you in the new year for some extremely inspiring conversations. Thank you for tuning in to A Styled Life. If today's episode resonated, the best way to support the show is to share it with another trailblazer or leave a quick review. And if you're ready to align your style with your next level of impact, head to the show notes to book your free style strategy call. Because when your style aligns with your purpose, the world takes notice.